Hey everybody, JuicyTaz201 here, bringing you another Minecraft World Tours. This is episode 31, part 1, because there'll be 2 parts. So, this is part 1. Hope everybody's having a great day, and will like and subscribe below before we start today. But we are in New York City, Lower Manhattan, 1954. This was created by JuicyTaz and his friend Blarg. I've known JuicyTaz for about a year, and, well, actually longer than that, but he's been building this for a year. But I've known Kibbles for a while, and I must say he's one of the best city builders and New York City builders I've ever seen. On Minecraft, of course. But yes, here's his gamertag, TrueKibbles815. And if you want to see his world, be sure to add him on Xbox. He's an Xbox player, like all the other tours I've done. They have all been on Xbox. Hopefully someday I can expand onto other, consoles. We'll see about that. But this is what he has done so far. It's definitely not complete. There's so much to work on. And, every day he makes more and more buildings, and there's a few hundred already here. It's sad because a lot of the buildings you see today do not exist anymore because of redevelopment and them putting big giant glass blocks in its place. So, sadly, that is the current New York City area. But there are many gems like this building right here that are still standing and are protected by historical, trademarked, all that stuff. But yes, the names of the buildings, most of them are actually below in the bottom of the base, and I will try to find this one if I can find it. Now, this is an important one. It is right near the City Hall. I never knew exactly what this building represented or what it is, but if you do, be sure to comment below. And if you have any questions, be sure to ask. True Kibbles will probably answer them if he is watching. I bet he'll check this often to see if there's any comments below. But yes, Kibbles is also one of my moderators on my club, and I also toured another New York City recently, a few months ago. That was Game Owner. He's also a moderator, as I said, but he had a New York City as well. So that's a metropolitan building, and it was built in 1892 and demolished in 1963. That is sad. Yeah, a lot of the beautiful old buildings were torn down in the 60s because you had a lot of big buildings that were just glass blocks. The Seagram's building really set the tone. If you don't know what the Seagram's building is, it is right near the right near 5th Avenue. I think it's on 7th. I'm not really too sure. But after that, they started tearing down a lot of the old buildings and putting these big giant glass blocks up, and that's what became the style of the, I would say, century. And I guess a lot of the style is still continuing. We don't really build like this anymore, but these are beautiful buildings. 63 Park Row. There's a lot of pictures online of old pictures of Lower Manhattan, and this building is in a lot of them because the City Hall is like right next to it. So it had a beautiful copper roof like you see right there, but it's made out of diamonds, and it looks a lot like it. Over here's a nice building that's not standing anymore. I think Pace University owns that location now, and they probably regret tearing that one down. And he got a few extra builds over here that he is working on at the moment. But you can see how he looks to continue over here in the future, and how there's going to be water out here, hopefully at some point. The city is always growing. Whenever I stop by here, it's always larger. I don't know where he finds the time, but he is always building with Blarg, and they're always expanding the city. It's definitely one of the best cities I've ever been in. But yes, that's just gorgeous. I love that building right there. And I believe the old New York Times building is right next to it, and that I believe that's still standing. Don't take my word for it, though. This was like where a lot of the paper and the news companies were. And there's Blarg. It's like black, but Blarg. New York Tribune building right here. Okay, that's New York Tribune building, and it was demolished in 67. Okay. So it wasn't New York Times, New York Tribune. And I'm not sure what the name of that one is, but I do love the architecture. I love the architecture of all the old buildings because there was such craft and, detail, ornamentation. And it's sad we don't have the ornamentation aspect today. But that is just gorgeous right there. And I recreated something like that in my city, but I never said anything. I just said it was a inspired building from New York City. But the one gray building near one of my new areas in my city was based off this. But yeah, that's New York Times building. And the red. I never thought the red would be nice on the building, but I saw this in person, the real building, and I compared it, and I'm like, wow, that looks like the exact same building. And right here is the City Hall, and you can tell it's under construction this year, or under renovation, I believe. And due to renovations, the City of New York, the mayor and other elected, blah, 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 blah. It's just extra detailing, which is cool to have. But look at that scaffolding. That looks so real. They just use the mob spawn cage things. So I'm trying to look at almost everything without boring you guys to death. Just the important, beautiful buildings. They're all important, but ones that have the extra bit of detail that are just beautiful, I'm going to be sure to stop by. This one I want to build someday, maybe in my city. I've always loved this building, and it is still standing. Thank goodness. They probably even thought about tearing this down one day, back in the old days. But yeah, we just don't build like that anymore, and it's just a beautiful building. And it's great to see somebody recreating the old buildings. Okay, moving on over here, you got some little small scale buildings. And it's really cute. That's a nice building. And yes, I just call the building cute. And I don't believe there's interiors in these ones, but that's the name of the building. It was built in 1912. And it's amazing to think there's still some people who are alive from 1912 today. But, yeah, simple design. And this was like very used design back in the old days. I used the horseshoe kind of style building. Now, I'm not really sure. Oh, that's like an eye, I think. Yeah, that's like an eye style. But that is like a double-sided building, which gives you more than one entrance, which is very nice. And look at that map over there. That is the map of the whole world so far. Holy moly. That is insane. I cannot wait to bring my city over here. I will have it set up just like that. Somewhere on a wall. But that's what we got to see, and that is why there's going to be 2 parts to this video. I know for a fact there will be 2 parts. And we'll even come back here someday when it's all complete. Now, True Cables was telling me he hopes to have this all complete, like, within another year. I don't know if he'll be able to do it, but by the pace that he's doing it right now, like how fast he's going, I definitely think that he could get it done within that time that he wants to get it done. But yeah, you will not be seeing the World Trade Center and the Empire State Building in this video, because they didn't exist yet. And right here is a familiar building. The Dunn building, I built that in my city. Mine's a little bit different, but that is the right scale for it. Mine's a little too big, but that's because I wanted to get all the little details in there. And I don't go off scale, really, for buildings in my city unless it needs to be for a certain reason. Everything's pretty much scaled, though, in my city. And we're getting to the edge of the map over here for right now. But if you want to learn something from this video, I would say the use of materials and the layout of the city. I know it's a pre-laid out city because it is New York City and it's an existent city, but it's a really good lesson on how you should connect buildings if you're making a city with buildings that are tight together. I see a lot of cities where like the buildings are like sticking out of the ground just by themselves and are not connected to any. With the old cities, they used to be connected to other buildings because they had to make most of the room, and there wasn't room just to put one building on a plot, unless it's like a convention center or something like that. But yeah, I think we've seen almost everything over here. Kibbles wanted me to look for something, and I'm trying to remember what it was. It was over here. We'll go back over here a little bit. And he did say there was interior in one of these buildings over here, so let's go see where that interior is at. Be sure to stick to the end of the video. We'll be getting to the mega buildings, mega skyscrapers. But watch all the way through. You will not be disappointed. And there's Kibbles. I found him. And there's gold in here. Gold elevators. What's upstairs? He's taking me somewhere. We'll see. And I guess this building is significant in some way. Not really sure, though. So, Kibbles, comment below why you took me in there. I'm just joking. You can message me. I didn't understand what we were doing there. So let's go down the road. Before we continue, let's see what this building is. I think it's 270 Broadway? Yeah, it is. Okay, it was built in 1930. And over here we have 265 Broadway, built in 1936. So both of these buildings were built in the 30s. And that would make sense because a lot of the older buildings that were here before the current skyscrapers and the old ones there were actually like little mansions. Well, not little mansions, but like these mansions throughout the whole city. And most of them, almost I think all of them, got torn down, and they put these big skyscrapers and big buildings over top of them in the early 1900s to the 1950s and continued. But New York City was mainly a small city of just little buildings, and it grew. It was always the same size island except for Lower Manhattan, where they put the World Trade Center. They added on to that, which is why it's such a strong structure below the ground, where they have the knots in the ground. But you probably don't understand what I'm talking about unless you were at the World Trade Center site. But yes, I'm just giving a little bit of a history lesson from what I do know. There's so much to know about New York City. I'm actually researching it right now for a project. But there's like just so much to know. It's a beautiful city as well. The architecture is just exquisite. And we have the famous Woolworth building right here. World's tallest from 1913 to the 1930. Completed 1913 and reskinned 1977. So this is the version of it before they remodeled it. And he did do the lobby for most of the notorious buildings and well-known buildings. And even some buildings that are not well-known. Looks nice. If you're building a city, it's good to have at least a lobby. If you're not if you don't like doing interior, be sure to do a lobby. I find myself doing that a lot more now because I want to build my city quicker now, and I want to not worry about interior as much, so I've just been doing lobbies, and I've been doing the floors with some lighting. And I'll give a nice fly around of the Woolworth building. I've always liked this building and just the detailing. If you go to the bottom of the building and you look up, there's like faces and everything, and like animal faces on the wall, like it's like pretty high up, but you can see it from the ground level, and it's just amazing the detail they put into the old buildings. And I'm not sure what this is. I know it has a really big base. I don't know if this is still here anymore or not, so if I see a sign, I will read it. And if you're wondering why a lot of the buildings went in back then, the base went, higher and it kind of went to a point. Oh, by the way, this is the 225 Broadway Transportation Building. And, but anyways, if you want to know why it would slope in the building is because New York City signed an act, and we'll go by the building real soon. Well, probably in the next episode, or not episode, but part. And they made it so the buildings had to go in so more light could get into the ground levels, because there was a lot of big buildings being built that was blocking the light from coming down onto the ground. So if you had to pretty much make it go in like that, right to the right. And if you don't know what I'm saying, it's alright. Just look at the buildings and say, wow. And this building is still there. That is right next to the World Trade Center. Now, I never realized how old that building was until I joined the world for the first time. And this building is still standing right next to the World Trade Center. But these little ones probably aren't because they're too small and they take up too much valuable room. And there's water over there, and oh, we got an old sign right here. I never saw this one. World something. It was hard to see it, but we'll continue. Okay, so this whole area, that building exists still, which is a beautiful building, and I love how it's like, it kind of creeps into every photo of the World Trade Center. But over here, this whole area is gone now. This is what the World Trade Center site looked like before you had the Twin Towers and you had the Freedom Tower, aka One World Trade Center. This is what it looked like. And this part of New York City has been forgotten, actually, over time. And there's just like, it's pretty much like a bunch of little buildings. Hudson Terminal building right there. I don't think that is standing anymore as well. I'm not sure what I could say. The city speaks for itself. It's such a beautiful piece of art, and it's a colossal project. I was at this church. It was very pretty. I think we were over here as well. I will say, Kibbles goes through like thousands of pictures of buildings to make sure everything is correct and the sizing. Park Row building. Okay, built 1899, and it's still standing. That is good to know. I didn't see any like sign that said demolished. It must be protected. It's good to have a national, well, not national, but like a society that protects old buildings. Now, I want to figure out how to get in there, because that is a beautiful lobby right there. Nice building. So it's probably on the other side. It probably wraps around the whole building. Oh, and right down there is probably how you get in. Oh, I like how it sets back right there. Very nice, and you have the American flag just hanging there. Now, I will say the flag is actually hanging wrong, so don't tell me. I know. National Park. Okay. And a lot of the buildings back then were based off the street names, I noticed. And let's get out of here. You got a villager standing here. Give me an eye. What do you want? And you got the little building down there. It's probably not even there anymore. I swear, anything small in New York City is probably gone. The space, you know, even a closet. If you want to like rent a closet, it's like 10 grand a month. Books and stamps. And I don't think you can go in there, can you now? Built 1908, and it was demolished, of course. And let's keep moving on. Now, we haven't gotten into the big stuff yet. Like, these are big buildings, but we haven't gotten into the awesome, awesome stuff that you guys probably all know about, which is all the Wall Street buildings. But maybe we will save that for the next part. We don't know. There's just so many old buildings in this world, and it is impossible to keep creating commentary while I go along, because all I want to do is look at these as I'm flying around. I do get a lot of inspiration, though, from this world, because, you know, it's hard to find, you know, the site that will take you all the way back to this time and show you, like, a 3D building. So he is probably sifting through thousands of pictures and putting all these together. There's other worlds that I have in on my channel, the home area of my channel, where you can see people who've built the old cities. I think Action and Daggett, if that's how you say his name or something like that. He's not creating or any building anymore, but I have his channel linked on my channel. But Kibbles is the only one I know that's making like the 1-to-1 scale of New York City from this time period. Now, I believe he's going to be increasing it to like 1960s, so he can make or late 1950s or early 60s, so he can make the Chase Manhattan Bank, which Chase, the bank, doesn't own it anymore. So, yeah. That is 90 Park Place. Kibbles built that recently in my city, which I will do a tour of. With him in the world, though. We have to have him in the world. But I love these little buildings. It's good to have little buildings in your city if you're making an original city, and don't just put big buildings, because once you put just big buildings, then those big buildings actually look small because they're all the same sizes. So it's important to put, you know, smaller scale buildings like these, and by no means these are smaller scale at all. These are pretty big, but even buildings this size make the big tall buildings look big, if that makes any sense. I hope it did. But that is just gorgeous right there. I'm about to hire him to make that in my city. We have that big open spot in my city, so let's see what we can do with that. But look at that. Oh, I love that. And I won't be going to the bottom of all these buildings because I do not want to keep going down and up. But the Singer building is right here, and this is his favorite building. And never criticize the Singer building, or he'll have your throat. I swear. It's a great building, and it was one of the first, I think actually it was the first building he made in his city. And he always takes pictures of it and posts it on the club. So if you want to see pictures of the city, like great pictures that he does, go join my club. It's JuicyTaz201 Fanpage. And one of my admins or Kibbles will accept your invite, or not invite, but your request, and then we have to invite you back to it. But the club is always growing, and it's great to see the people, great to see the builds that people are posting. I love that detail right there. The bottom of this actually just inspired me for a building that I just created that I will do a video on as well. I've been building a lot, but I haven't been recording them yet. The sad thing about this building is it's gone now, and it was replaced with Liberty Plaza. Demolished 1969. Plazas were trendy in the late 60s. As I said, the Seagram's building was one of the first plaza buildings, and I think it was Mies van der Rohe built the Seagram's building, and some of you who are into architecture will know who I'm talking about. He made that, and then, you know, plaza buildings became popular. And that was pretty cool. An elevator just took us to the top. And you got a scary villager just walking around here. And let's get out of here. Okay, good. We were back in the lobby. And I think we're getting to the end of this tour until the next part, but let's go look at a few more things. I'll give you guys a few more things to see before we cut it and, you know, connect to the next episode or part, I mean. I keep making that mistake. It's a nice lobby as well. All these columns right here. I would hate to be the construction workers putting these in. Whenever I go in the old buildings, I'm kind of weird where I think, wow, this whole building was made by people that are gone and dead. It's a weird way of looking at it, but I just think about it like that when I go in an old building. I'm like, wow, somebody carved this door and they're not alive anymore. It's a weird thing to think about, but it's just, old buildings are something really, there's something really interesting about them and the detailing that went into them back then. Each generation has a way of building and a way of expressing their artistic abilities. That sounded really scholarly, wow. And you got an orange building right here, I like that. Breaks up the color. And, you know, in my city, I just built a building that used a lot of different materials that I'd never use, because I wanted to, like, change up the materials I was using. And I cannot wait to show that to you guys. Cannot wait at all. And this is the outer part near the Hudson. And these are a lot of the outer buildings. Now, I think a lot of them are actually still standing, thank goodness. The one right here may have been just demolished. I'm not too sure. I think it was just demolished. And down here you have a lot of the Art Deco. Yeah. It's amazing. In the 30s, they made, I think it was like 18 skyscrapers in Midtown Manhattan. It was like 18 of them within like 5 years, something like that, and that's just crazy. That just shows you how fast New York City like developed. But right here are like two of my favorite buildings in the whole entire city. And I was here in real life. I got a picture here, and cables actually went inside the one building, and they told them to leave. But these buildings are great. The Whitehall building, okay. But they're kind of like connected, but they're not, if it makes sense. Over here. They're just joined at the bottom. But yeah, I love those two buildings. Probably one of my tops in New York City. And some buildings back then looked like they were falling into each other. Which they weren't. And I think we're going to call it wraps for right now here. And until the next part, you'll see more and more of the more iconic skyscrapers that we have come to know in the skyline of New York City. Anyways, guys, it's been JuicyTaz201. Be sure to like and subscribe. I said that in the beginning, and do that again if you haven't already. I hope to see you all in the next video. It's been another Minecraft World Tours. I'll see you next time. Bye.